Flip that around. Cool! We've got frontward-facing cameras again. Okay. Let me roll one of these real quick before I begin this. See if anybody actually in, because I don't really go live very often, but I figure it's been a minute since I did it, so I probably should. Gonna see. But anyway, like I said, I haven't gone live for a minute, and figured I should probably make a video and talk about something that I seem to talk about a lot with people. I have not gotten a better quality phone yet, so the camera's kind of jumpy and the data doesn't really want to play with me well, but alright. Okay. So this video is me basically talking about one of the fraud scams in human history. Not to mention one of the greatest thefts in human history. Most of us have got a car, and anybody who has a car, and pretty much anybody who is an American citizen, understands that the DMV says you have to register your car and get a license to utilize it. This video is to explain that is a lie, and the fact that they don't tell you this, them being the DMV and the government, makes it fraud, which in turn makes it theft. Okay, so what I have here is a big packet that's been sitting in my glove box for several months, so it's kind of dirty, but it is literally the law. I'll read a quote from Samuel Adams. If men, through fear, fraud, or mistake, should in terms renounce or give up any natural right, the eternal law of reason, and the grand end of society would absolutely vacate such renunciation. The right to freedom, being the gift of Almighty God, is not in the power of a man to alienate this gift and voluntarily become a slave. That was basically Samuel Adams talking about if you enter into a contractual agreement by means of coercion, threat of violence, intimidation, really anything, it's considered a fraudulent contractual agreement, and that society has an obligation to denounce that contractual agreement. In the case of Budd versus the people of the state of New York, 143 U.S. 517 from 1892. Sorry, hold on. Cigarette went out. Men are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And to secure, not grant or create these rights, governments are instituted. That property, which a man has honestly acquired, he retains full control of, subject to these limitations. First, that he shall not use it to his neighbor's injury. That does not mean that he must use it for his neighbor's benefit. Second, that if he devotes it to a public use, he gives to the public a right to control that use. And third, that whenever the public needs required, the public may take it upon payment of due compensation. In the case of Barber versus Connolly, 113 U.S. 2731, Yick Yo versus Hopkins, 118 U.S. 356. There should be no arbitrary deprivation of life, liberty, or the arbitrary spoliation of property. Now what that means, basically, is that there shouldn't be any vague, arbitrary, really no good reason whatsoever to take away someone's life, liberty, or spoliation of property. Basically what that means is you can't make laws for no reason because you feel like it, that people should give up certain rights, that they are obligated to give away certain things that they have. Let me find the right section here. Now, this is the duty of the licensor or DMV commissioner. Let's see. Let's go with the numbers here. Dolcatter versus Manufacturers and Traders Trust Company, DCNY 2F SUPP. It could be supplementary. I don't know. I don't know exactly what that means, but it's SUP 637641. The information created and surrounding the stricti juris doctrine regarding a particular license which may or may not be represented by and revealed within the contents and control of a license agreement, but must be revealed upon demand, and failure to do so is contractually considered. Known by those who have a duty are bound to reveal. Well, now the question becomes, do I need and am I required by law, which is what this video is about. Damn, this thing does not want to stay lit. Am I required by law to register my car? Well, before I go into this, I want to explain that when 90s children's grandparents were growing up, a car was called an automobile. We call them vehicles today. And there's a reason why this name has switched. So, the question becomes, is an automobile a motor vehicle? And according to the federal law, 18 U.S.C. 31, a motor vehicle means every description of carriage or other contrivance propelled or drawn by mechanical power and used for commercial purposes on the highways in transportation of passengers and property, or property and cargo. Used for commercial purposes means the carriage of persons or property for any fare, fee, rate, charge, or other consideration, or directly or indirectly in connection with any business or other undertaking intended for profit. Like I said, that is 18 U.S.C. 31. A carriage is peculiarly a family or household artifact. It contributes in a large degree to the health, convenience, comfort, and welfare of the householder or of the family. Arthur versus Morgan, 113 U.S. 495 500 5S.CT 241 243 SD New York 1884. The Supreme Court in the case of Arthur versus Morgan, 112 U.S. 495 5S.CT 241 28 LED 825, held that carriages were properly classified as household effects, and we see no reason that automobiles should not be similarly disposed of. Hillhouse versus the United States, 152 F 163 164, Second Circuit Court, 1907. A soldier's personal automobile is part of his household goods. The U.S. versus Bomer, CA 5, 8 F 3D 26 and 235, 19A, Words and Phrases, Permanent Edition, West Pocket, Part 94. It is a jury question whether an automobile is a motor vehicle. The United States versus Johnson, 718 F2D 1317 1324, Fifth Circuit Court, 1983. Now, because a car can be either an automobile, which is a household good, which cannot be taxed and regulated, or I'm going to rephrase that, it cannot be forced to be taxed or regulated. Let me get the air conditioning going. It's kind of hot in here. This is where a classification issue occurs. Is your car an automobile? or is your car a motor vehicle? Well, we have laws about this. We have case laws about this. In determining whether or not a motorboat was included in the expression household effects, matter of Winburn's will, Supra 13 Miss 5247 NYS 592, stated the test to be whether the articles are or are not used in or by the household or for the benefit or comfort of the family. Henry Bloomingdale's estate, 142 NYS 2D 785 This is the case underneath it of Grimes versus Macy Ferguson Incorporated, 23 UCC Representative Serve 655355 SO.2D 338 LAA 1978. The use to which an item is put, rather than its physical characteristics, determines whether it should be classified as consumer goods under UCC 9-1091 or equipment under UCC 9-1092. Under UCC 910, there is a real distinction between goods purchased for personal use and those purchased for business use. The two are mutually exclusive, and the principle to which the property is put to use should be considered as determinative. James Talcott Incorporated versus Gee, 5 UCC Rep Serve 1028 266 Cal App 2D 384 72 Cal. I don't know if that's Raptor or not, but it's RPTR .168 from 1968. So I'm going to go into real quick what a household good is. And this is from the case of Lawwell versus Lawwell, 515 P2D 900 903 21 Arizona APP 75 19A Words and Phrases Permanent Edition Pocket Part 94. The term household goods includes everything about the house that is usually held and enjoyed there within, and that tends to the comfort and accommodation of the household. So, real quick, before I actively go into all of the different reasons why you don't need to register your car and why you don't need to have a driver's license to utilize it, I'm going to go into different automobiles that are classified as vehicles and different automobiles that are not classified as vehicles real quick. According to Mathis versus Casey, or Casey, ETAL 159 SE 240, Georgia 1931. Household goods did not include an automobile used by the testator, who is a practicing physician in going from his residence to his office and vice versa, and in making visits to his patients. Debtors could not avoid lien on motor vehicle, as motor vehicles are not household goods within the meaning of the Bankruptcy Code lien avoidance provision. Henry Martinez, BKRTCY NM, which I'm assuming is New Mexico, 22 BR 7 and 8, 19A Words and Phrases Permanent Edition, West Pocket Part 94. Automobiles not classified as vehicles. An automobile purchased for the purpose of transporting a buyer to and from his place of employment was a consumer good, as defined in UCC 9-109, Malicote versus Volunteer Finance and Loan Corporation, 3 UCC Rep Serve 1035 415 SW2D 347 Tennessee APP 1966. The provisions of UCC 2316 and the Maryland UCC do not apply to sales of consumer goods, a term which includes automobiles, whether new or used, that are bought primarily for the purpose of family or household goods. Maryland Independent Automobile Dealers Association Incorporated versus the Administrator of Motor Vehicles Administration, 25 UCC Representative Serve 699-394 A2D 820 41 MD AP 7 1978. Now, I've actually got the whole law sitting here. But in conclusion, is an automobile always a motor vehicle? The answer to that is no. This is a question of fact that turns on to use which which turns on the use to which an automobile is in question is put. While presumption of an automobile being a vehicle is created by the owner of said automobile registering same with the state as a vehicle, this presumption may be overcome by an affirmative defense to the allegation of the automobile being a vehicle, barring any evidence to the contrary indicating commercial use. And this packet is very easy to find. All you have to do is Google DMV fraud. If you did Google DMV fraud, you will get a whole packet. That is the laws, it is case law, it is letters from the House of Representatives, from judges, from freaking lawyers, from just a whole bunch of freaking. It's a whole freaking packet. Like I said, but like I said, the question here is: do you need to have a driver's license or register your vehicle? Yes. Do you need a driver's license and register your automobile? No. The law does not require you, as a private citizen, to register any form of property that is not used for commercial or business purposes. Now, since I'm sitting in my automobile, we can go with me. And people all the time go, well, Odd, you've got a car, and you've got a license plate on your car. And the answer to that is yes. Yes, I do. There's many reasons for it, and I'll go into them. One of the reasons is because my grandmother, who bought me the car, made a deal with me. And that deal was that I would own a license plate and have insurance if she paid for it, because I refuse to pay for anything I'm not required by law to have. So she pays for my insurance, registration, tags, all that stuff. The second reason why I still have a license plate on my car is because my car currently has no external, external detailing work, right? Which means that when I get pulled over for not having a driver's license, the cops are going to hit, or not having a license plate on my car, cops are going to hit me with one statement. What if you hit someone and run? That's a valid question. It's a valid argument. And the question to that becomes, you handle that when it's done, first off. Second, if I have got the name of my car painted onto the side, then I've got Captain's Quarter written on the side of my door, and I've got a bunch of other paint jobs done to it, it's very quite easy. And I can hit them back with this. Well, if I do hit someone and run, it's very simple. You're looking for the Nelly Bell. You're looking for a car that says Nelly Bell written across the back of it in big letters. It also says Captain Quarters on the front. It's got this huge hood and detail job. My car will be very obvious that it's my car. Or, not necessarily obvious it's my car, but it'll be an obvious car to spot. So I'm waiting until I have detailing work done so that I can respond and likewise. But the answer to this is really, I don't need to do it in the first place. Now I'm going to go into exactly why the DMV is committing fraud. When you go to the Department of Motor Vehicles to register your automobile, they are supposed to let you know you don't need a driver's license. You don't need a license plate. They don't. You know what that is? That is the withholding of information that is essential to this contractual agreement. When you get a driver's license and you get a license plate, having these is a contractual agreement stating that you will follow the rules of the road, stating that you have proven that you know how to operate said motor vehicle, and that you will show your license that shows you are capable of utilizing the said machine to any law enforcement officer who might pull you over. That is literally the reason why the law requires you to show driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance when you get pulled over, because you are not utilizing a private consumer good. You are utilizing a commercial vehicle on the public roadways. In order to utilize a commercial vehicle on the public roadways, it is no different from being a truck driver. You have to be able to prove you can operate that truck. You have to be able to prove you know the laws of the road. Simple, really. Simple, really. Now, I always ask people the same question. If I don't have to, why aren't you seeing court cases about it? And, well, you do. You do find court cases on it. In fact, I will read you a letter from April 2006 from Judge Phyllis R. Streithow from Chester County Court of Common Pleas. Sorry, it's not from there, it's to there. Dear Judge Streithow, it has recently been brought to my attention that on March 2006, Mr. William Taylor Reed, a defendant in criminal action number 4470-202, before the Court of Common Pleas, was found guilty of violating two provisions of the Transportation Code, 78 Pennsylvania, CSA 71223, and 75 Pennsylvania, CSA 1543. I have come to know Mr. Reel very well during the past 14 years, and I respect his understanding of the law concerning the right of an individual to travel, among other things. I believe Mr. Reel has a better understanding of this area of the law than many licensed lawyers. While I am not a licensed attorney, I have asked a member of my staff who is a Pennsylvania licensed attorney to examine Mr. Reel's understanding of this complex issue. The conclusion reached by my staff was that Mr. Reel has thoroughly researched the issue and has based his argument on solid legal precedent. I've also performed my own in-depth research over the years, and I too have reached the conclusion that Mr. Reel stands on solid legal footing. The crux of the issue is whether Title 75 can properly be applied to an individual. Within an individual's right to liberty is the inherent right to travel. If one's movement can be restrained, and such restraint is intrinsically a restraint of his liberty. Mr. Reel's use of an automobile is simply an extension of his personal liberty to move about as he wishes. My research and that of my staff confirms that Title 75 can only properly be applied to commercial vehicles and commercial use of the roads. An individual who wishes to utilize an automobile or other means of conveyance in order to exercise his right to travel cannot lawfully be required to obtain a license to drive or register his automobile in order to operate it freely on our roads. I have not reached the above conclusions without understanding the vast implications that would follow these conclusions. I am well aware that ruling of this nature would undo years of enforcement of our existing laws. I am also aware of the enormous economic impact such ruling would have on the Department of Transportation. However, no one today would dare argue that we should not have eliminated slavery because it was too costly to the American economy. When rights are being violated, no cost is too high to return those rights to the individual who holds them. Slavery is the ultimate restriction of one's liberty. It limits one's rights in every conceivable way, including one's right to move about freely. Likewise, refusing to acknowledge an individual's right... Hold on, I lost my lighter. There it is. Okay, where was that? Likewise, refusing to acknowledge an individual's right to travel is an unconstitutional restriction of one's liberty and should not be permitted to continue in Pennsylvania. I respectfully request that you grant Mr. Reel's request for reconsideration of the March 2007 verdict, March 27th verdict, sorry, and review the facts and circumstances surrounding his request. He does not wish to perpetuate this situation any more than necessary. He is simply asking for an acknowledgement and protection of his right to travel and would like to return to living the peaceful life he has led over the years. I would certainly be happy to speak with you concerning this issue if you would like to do so. I appreciate your willingness to consider the views I have expressed in this letter. Sincerely, Samuel E. Rohrer, State Legislative 128 Legislative District. Now, what this letter is this letter is a letter from a literal state representative of the state of Pennsylvania stating that the laws in Pennsylvania regarding this right to travel are unconstitutional. Now, if the law in Pennsylvania is unconstitutional regarding one's requirement to register register an automobile, that makes it illegal and unconstitutional across the board. Because the U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of this land. If you live in America and you are an American citizen, this is very important. The U.S. Constitution grants you these rights. Any law passed that violates those rights should not be followed by the American people. It is up to us to realize we don't have to do this, so we're not gonna do this. The only reason why people still go to the DMV is because either they don't know that you don't have to, or because they are scared. Understand this. They are scared. I've talked to many, many people, one of which is a friend of mine named Flux, who also has a YouTube channel, but he's a little bit different of a live streamer. He live streams what he does in the desert. But he and I have had this conversation. And he says, I get mine registered because I'm worried that the cops will arrest me and take my bus if I don't. That is called coercion through fear. When you enter into a contractual agreement because you are scared that someone will come and lock you up and take your property if you do not comply, that is called coercion through fear. And it makes any contractual agreement invalid. Now, the fact that people are scared of this is very powerful. Because what it means is you have rights. And you're free to exercise them all you want, as long as the government doesn't have a problem with it. And when I say the government, I mean all forms. People don't realize that the police are the point of contact between the government and the people, thereby making them physical embodiments of the government. And if you are scared that the police are going to take your car if you do not pay them to use it, then what that means is you are scared the government is going to take your car if you do not pay them to use it. And it is a direct violation. It's a violation of so many different rights. One, it's a violation of your Fourth Amendment rights, the right to protect yourself against unlawful searches and seizures of persons, papers, and properties. You have the right, according to the Fourth Amendment, to not have to worry about going to jail for no reason. You have the right to, by the Fourth Amendment, to not have to worry about your papers being rifled through and taken without reason. You have the right to secure your property against theft, is what that means. In order for someone to take your car from you, there has to be enough evidence that you are either utilizing it in an illegal fashion or utilizing it to harm another. That is probable cause, and you need a warrant to do so. Sorry, I got my air conditioner on. Now, one of the things that I like about James Freeman, News Now Patrick, News Now Houston, and Gavin Syme, and I love Gavin Syme. He's been exiled from America into Mexico for over a year now, If you haven't seen his work, I highly suggest go checking it out. Um, because he really tackles the issue. He fled the United States out of fear, is what he did. But News Now Houston, News Now Patrick, and James Freeman have all made very serious headway in regards to the First Amendment protection. It's reached a point now where First Amendment auditors will go into a video, and half the time cops know what they're doing. Does this change the fact that cops still violate their rights? Probably not in most cases. I don't know exactly what's going on when the camera ain't rolling. But I do know that as a First Amendment auditor, and as somebody who exercises my rights quite regularly, I've noticed a change. For instance, the other night I was sitting in my car smoking a cigarette, and my grandmother's next door neighbor next door decided to call the cops on me because he didn't know who I was. Which, okay, fine, whatever. Well, when the cop rolled up, he came to my window. And I rolled my window down, and I said, "Can I help you?" And he said, "Yes, do you live here?" I said, "Yes, I do." He said, "Can I see your ID?" I said, "No." He said, "Why not?" And I said, "Well, why do you want to see my ID?" And he said, "I got a call that you're not supposed to be here." And I said, "That's fine. I am supposed to be here. And if you'd like, you can go knock on the door and ask my grandmother yourself." Right? And he said, "I'd still like to see your ID." And that was when I broke into the legal talk. I said, "Look, I have an ID, and I'm not showing it to you. And here's why. I'm sitting on private property, in my own car, doing nothing illegal, and committing no criminal act. You have no reason to see my ID." And when I said this, he didn't like it, but he said fine. And rather than going and knocking on my grandmother's door, he went to his car to call backup and come run my license plates and shit. Well, at this point, I called my grandmother. And my grandmother came out and started talking to him. And he asked her, "I'd still like to see his ID." Well, my grandmother said, "You don't want to do that. Because you're going to go over there to that car. And it's going to escalate the situation because he's not going to show you his ID. You have no reason to. Feel free to run his plates. I'm the property owner. I've told you he has a right to be here. Go away." And he did. And that is made possible by people like News Now Houston and News Now Patrick and James Freeman, who have gone across the country refusing to identify themselves. They refused it. We've broken no laws. I don't want to show you my ID. You don't have to. And because because enough people are doing it, and enough police officers are having these encounters with people who are just refusing to identify themselves. I only mention News Now Houston, News Now Patrick, and James Freeman because those are the three that I like. I don't really go into a lot of the others because there's a code of ethics to journalism, and they follow the code of ethics to journalism. They're not rude. They're not disrespectful. They simply exercise their rights and are assertive on them. I'm not a big fan of people who just cuss out cops the moment they walk up. "I have a right to do this, motherfucker, da-da-da-da-da." I'm not too fond of that. Because it is possible the cops just don't know. They have an IQ cap. They don't allow people with a certain IQ or higher to become a cop. And that has problems. Also, their training is terrible. They militarize their training, and the cops view us as combatants or drug addicts or they basically view us as a threat at all times. And so News Now Houston, News Now Patrick, and James Freeman hold themselves to this code of ethics, if you will. But because of the people like that, it's reached a point where if I don't want to identify myself, I run the risk. I do. I run the risk of getting the crap beat out of me, especially being homeless. You know. But they've pushed the issue enough that at least it's acknowledged that I do not have to do that, nor do you. And the reason I bring this up is because people believe we have a 4 checks and balance system in this country. We do not. Sorry, they think we have a 3 checks and balance. We have a 4 checks and balance. You have a Supreme Court, you You have Congress and the Senate, and then you have the presidential office. Sure. But then you have the fourth branch, which is us. It is on us to protect our rights. It is on us to hold them accountable. It is on us to say, I don't have to do that. And when enough of us do, we make change. And so what I would like to see is I'd like to see more private automobiles on my roads that don't have license plates, that don't have driver's licenses, that are utilizing the public roads using their private consumer goods because they can. Not because they're told they have to register, but because they're allowed to drive. They're allowed to travel. They're allowed to do what they want to do. And it only happens when we stand up. As well, I'll go into history. Mahatma Gandhi brought all of the thousands of people down to the ocean side to make salt because it was unlawful for them to make their own salt. They had to buy it from the British. And Gandhi said, fuck you. We ain't doing it. And so he marched thousands of people to the beach and sat there and made salt. Do you know why it worked? Well, because these people were willing to die for their right to make salt. If these people were willing to die for their right to make salt, what are we willing to die for? Are we willing to die to protect the rights of our children? Are we willing to die to secure the freedoms this country is supposed to have? Are we willing to die to stop the immense taxation, extortion, coercion, intimidation brought onto the American people by the police, by the government? France right now is in uproar. It's in uproar. You don't hear much of it on mainstream news because the problems in France are the same fucking problems we've got going on here. And if France's citizens are standing up and going, enough is a fucking enough, we cannot afford to pay for a Christmas dinner for our children. We're done. We're over it. It's time for y'all to go. Then America would realize that they are facing the same problems, and we would rise. We would stand up. It happened in the American Revolution. America stood up and said, enough is enough. We're tired of your laws restricting immigration. We're tired of your laws demanding that we pay you. We're tired of people being taken on the seas and held with false charges. We're tired of people having to be witnesses against their own brethren or fall by their brethren's hand. We're tired of the redcoats murdering people in our streets and never having a freaking ounce of accountability for it. And when we stood up and said, we're done, France followed in our footsteps. They did. The French Revolution occurred about the same time as the American Revolution occurred. It was just a few years after. And the reason why is they saw us do it. And they said, they're living without a king. We can do the same. America influenced the whole world with that war. The shot heard round the world is a literal thing because the entire world saw a change and wanted the same. Now I've got to go because my battery's on 10% and it's starting to really die. But I will reiterate one more time. If we want change in this country, if we want to stop bombing the crap out of the world, if we want to stop supplying Saudi Arabia with missiles that they're using on strikes on school buses in Yemen, if we want our government to stop passing laws that none of us would ever pass, anti-camping laws, urban camping laws, anti-panhandling laws, anti-this law, anti-that law, we need to take action. We need to come together and go, no, we're done. We're done. We're not paying you to drive our cars. We're not paying you to live on land. We're not paying you to exercise our rights. We're not getting a license to carry our firearms. We're not getting a license to go hunt for our family. We're not getting a license to go fishing for our family. We're not getting a license to drive around on our roads. If we all stood up and said we're done, we could make some change. But we have to be willing to die for it. We have to be willing to be shot at. Because in a peaceful protest, the only reason a peaceful protest works is because you're willing to lose your life rather than take theirs. In a revolution, someone dies. Whether it's you or your enemy is up to you to decide. You don't have to fire that gun. But I guarantee you, if we all went to the White House and we congregated on the White House steps and said, we're done, get out of our building. We pay for it, we built it, we maintain it. Get out. They would fire on us. But what are they going to do? Kill everybody? They don't want to work. They don't want to do the hard manual labor that we do. What are they going to do? Kill us all? Or are they going to start mowing people down until the rest of the world stands up and go, hey, you can't fucking kill your own people. You can't do this. And I always ask people too when I start talking like this, do you really want a war in America? Do you really want to fight a war against your government? Yada, yada. We are already at war with them. The war on drugs, the war on crime, the war on poverty. By definition, these are wars against the American people. So maybe it's time we start acting like we're at war. Because we are. Police kill more people than anybody else in America every year. Thousands fall at the hands of our enforcers. The people we pay to protect us are murdering us. The people we pay to protect our rights are stripping them away. The people we pay to defend us are bombing the world mindlessly for their resources. So maybe we need to act like we are at war. Because we are. This is the Odd Auditor, signing off.